Welcome to the Beer Can Cold Podcast with your hosts Will Merritt and J.G. Van Gran, a podcast where the suction line is always beer can cold. Take it away, boys.
Welcome again, as we were.
You don't even understand what we go through.
As we were 20 minutes into an awesome start to a podcast and realized that nobody had recorded anywhere. Oh, well. It's what 2 weeks off
Jason
does.
I go with bad names here. Travis has told us his life story, and we did not have to record one.
Real tearjerker.
Yeah, it was, and now the energy. My apologies. So, yes, now we're recording. So, welcome back, guys, to the Beer Can Cold Podcast. It's been 2 weeks. It's been 2 eventful weeks. We'll cover that at 2 as well today. But we're coming to you. I'm coming to you live from the Boca Beer and Biltong Garage Pub here in Benson, North Carolina. Yes, I have a name and I do have a sign, but I'm not going to put that on camera today. So I'm finally able to do it from the Garage Pub here, and I think this is going to become a staple for me. So, Will, you're out of Charlotte. Beautiful Queen City. I think I said before we were not recording, I found out that my daughter is committed to a university in Charlotte, D1 rugby. So super stoked about that. She's going to Queens, and so that's a big announcement for her. Yep, she's going to Queens, and that took a minute to make that decision. The Naval Academy was in play, and there was some other things. So very proud of her. And then a good friend, Travis McGee, and we'll do the same thing, Travis. We'll allow you to tell us where you're from.
I am from Dubuque, Iowa. And yes, as I made my previous joke, I'll try to make it better this time, that if I ever talk to somebody from not Dubuque, they try to, and I let them read it first, they try to say Dubuque.
Dubuque.
But
it's French.
Dubuque. Yes, it is. It's actually, it's a French minor is what the town is named after, yes.
That's so actually, I got to spend some time in Dubuque about a year ago with Travis and the guys, and it was an amazing. It's the coolest place. But something I didn't say before we didn't record, I actually stayed, Will, at an amazing hotel downtown Dubuque, and actually stayed in the room that Bonnie and Clyde stayed in. So it was really cool. There was a very historic hotel, very beautiful, and it cost me $120 a night. So just so you know, it was very
Julian Dubuque.
Dubuque.
Yeah.
Well, I stayed in Davenport, Iowa, in a haunted hotel.
Oh,
yes.
Called, gosh, my mind's leaving me now. I'll find it, but it was right on the river, and it was known to be haunted. And so again, it was like cheaper than staying in a Courtyard Marriott or something, but it had real character to it. You're shaking your head, Travis, like you know what it is.
Yeah, it's
a Black Hawk.
Black Hawk, yeah. Yeah, you beat me to it. Hotel Black Hawk, yes.
Cool place, and I'll let you talk. I got to interject this since we're on to this, but really cool place. We have a customer right across the river in Moline, and it was known to be haunted, so we went up to the floor where it was supposedly everything happened and someone passed away. Gregory Peck passed away in the hotel. And I did get some weird vibes and talked to a couple of the managers. They said like the night managers saw some things and stuff, but great place to stay. Great restaurant there. Great people in Iowa. Back to you, Travis.
I will not be staying there. Just
well, we may be going back up there. They're probably going to be shooting a TV commercial, so I may be flying back up there in a couple of weeks, and definitely going to stay there again.
So maybe podcast.
You want to go?
You want to do a podcast?
We can do a podcast. We can flip it to that.
I'll come visit you guys for that one. That's only an hour away.
Say come have dinner with us.
Send me a date. Let me see what I can do. Let me sell that one to the wife. Listen, I'm going to Iowa to go do a podcast in a haunted house or hotel.
Haunted house, and we're going to shoot a TV commercial while we're there.
It's awesome. So, Travis.
Hopefully things move in the background while we're doing it.
Yeah,
that'd be fun. So, Travis, tell us a little bit about you. And you already did, so you have to do it again. But
okay.
Rinse and repeat.
Rinse and repeat.
Yeah. So I do. I am here. I'm here because I work in HVAC software. I work for ThermoGrid. JG and I have worked together on this software before. That's how we became friends.
Yep.
But one of the, there's a little more to it than that. I think part of this is the self-introduction. So yes, Dubuque, Iowa, family man, wife, 2 kids, 2 boys, very active boys, and I have 2 very large dogs, a Great Dane and a German Shepherd. So I have 200 pounds of dogs, is what I say. The ratio is like 2/3 Great Dane still, though.
Yep.
But he's a big dog. And everything they say about them is true. Like, they do think they're lap dogs, and
Yeah.
disgusting and heavy. And
One of my daughters has one.
yeah, oh, they're so sweet though. Like my
Yeah.
youngest is 5, and he is so patient. Like, the dog is so patient with my 5-year-old. Just
They've got a
tormenting him.
newborn, Travis, and like the newborn's like laying with the with the Great Dane, and
They are the
sweet.
nicest dogs. But I mean,
Oh, yeah.
people say that all the time, but they also forget how gross they are. like they sleep and you see like a pool of slobber. Like, they're just gross dogs. But that's okay. But yeah, Dubuque, Iowa. I love cars. I've got a 1969 El Camino. I actually didn't say this before. I also have a 1949 New Yorker.
Oh,
That
wow.
looks like kind of, people call it the gangster car, because it does look like one of those old. It's awesome, but and that's an old fluid drive, so it's ahead of like the automatic transmission, because it starts in like you have a clutch pedal and you have to drive it, and then you hear it click, and then it's automatic moving forward. It took me a minute to learn how to drive, and it's one of those cars. It's so old that like when I take it to car shows, people will be like, "Your grandpa gave you that?" And it's just like it's like no. But, I bought it because I wanted it. And that surprises people when because I don't know. I don't know if that's just a thing anymore, but it's really cool. And then just kind of one thing I like to tell people, because it's one of the hobbies I do the most, is I do like to blacksmith in my garage, and I do. And Will, I won't take away your opportunity to interject in your story here, but I do like to make like the trinkets more than I like to make the knives, and maybe that's just my skill level or something, but like I prefer to do like that stuff, like, because I like to make like the gifts, and like I made JG, some bottle openers, and I know, awesome. And I think a steak flipper for Christmas, didn't I?
Yep.
And that was fun to make, and I like, and I like doing it because it's like, unless you lose it, it's something you can have forever.
Well,
yeah.
So the thing is, Travis, I am very intrigued with blacksmithing because, just kind of my farming background and stuff. And he said, but I've tried, I can't get it off the ground. And I'm going to blame me being South African on that, because the minute we get the fire going and it's going right, I just go get meat and we grill. Like I can never get to the next step. It's just it's in my DNA. That's right.
Yeah, I mean, when you get the fire going, and when you get it to like the metal temperatures, you're above 2,000 degrees. You want to be like above 2,500 degrees. The meat will cook fast.
Yes.
So
it's not time for visiting, but it's quick. It's good. We eat. So
well, and the thing I really enjoy about it too is like I've got plenty of friends around here who will like, you want to come try it? Okay, come in the forge. And like, I've had friends come over and I'll kind of have this, like, I got this, like a Post-it sitting on my toolbox in my garage. And I say, which one do you want to make? And it's my hand drawings, which are awful. And so, but, so like, I graduated from the hand drawings very recently, and I just have the templates that I've just made for my friends. My friends will come over, and, it takes about an hour and a half, 2 hours to make the little thing I plan out. And my friends always say that it was a lot of fun, so hopefully
that's good.
Hopefully
it's like brewing beer. I had a buddy that JG brews, and I had a real good friend. He moved up to the mountains, but he'd like, you want to come over and help me? I'm like, sure.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. The thing about beer brewing, though, it is what gets you is the cleaning. It's constant cleaning and sanitizing. It's over and over and over. So I actually built a keg washer and stuff. And so I'm waiting for my wife to look the other way, and I'm actually going to build a bigger brew table. And there's some things in play. But Travis, I want to circle into ThermoGrid a little bit because I was privileged enough to go. We both work for a bigger company that acquired ThermoGrid. And I was brought on as the director of sales, and you were with the development team. And we worked super closely together because the reason they brought me in with no background and experience, which was their mistake, is that they wanted to have kind of like the voice of the industry. And I try to kind of bring what I think contractors wanted to see in that software. And that's a very crowded market. So can you talk a little bit about the history of ThermoGrid? Because there's a pretty good story there.
Yeah, and we talked about Iowa, and we talk about cities that are hard to pronounce. The capital of Iowa is Des Moines, and if you read it, it says Des Moines. So you'll hear that too.
That's Spanish and
but
French all in one state.
Yeah, but the guy who created ThermoGrid, Adam Corey, he was a salesperson for an HVAC company down there, and
oh, really?
And and he kind of wanted to say, hey, I can build a better mousetrap. It's kind of his thought process of like tracking sales, tracking people who did sales, because he wasn't. Maybe I'm underselling it. He was managing the sales team. He did a little bit more, so he wanted to manage people, see what they were doing, see what they were working at, and just getting their metrics, getting their how good are they doing in their performance and things. And Adam happens just to be excellent at Excel, and that's how things started, just making Excel formulas and lists and sheets. And that's actually that's where the grid part comes in of the name. Like the grid is actually referring to the grid on Excel. It's like the thought of this. So that's like the grid part of the name. But then that was, the my timeline's probably messed up here, but it was probably close to 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And maybe a little bit longer. Again, I might be losing the timeline here, but he was using it just for himself, and then a couple other companies of like friends he was using it with, until it kind of hit this point of like, I think I can sell this. and so that's just kind of where it went. Small company, and Adam ended up moving to Dubuque, Iowa. I definitely don't know when that happened. And then kind of started selling it from there. And as a small company, did pretty good for a couple of years. I came in probably after being in business for a couple of years. It was a really small team when I came in, and so it felt like a startup. And personally, I love small business. Always have. Like my whole life, I like gravitate towards working for small businesses. Like my first job was a small guitar shop. Because.
Wait a minute, you're a guitar player too?
Oh yeah.
No. Well,
I'm a guitar player.
I have one, but I did grow up playing like percussion, the drums. So that's actually
I have a set of drums upstairs.
Yeah, I actually right on the other side of this camera, I have an electric drum set because kids. So
yeah, I got the loud ones. It's at the top of the steps in the great room upstairs. So. Start playing, it's so loud in the house. I mean, everywhere. You got to leave the house. I don't play it. One of my friends does.
Yeah, I used to play the guitar a lot more, but it's in the last few years. It's kind of like you put one hobby in, one hobby has to come out. And I've really been in the blacksmithing like
there's only so much time. I agree.
Yeah.
I love playing. I just don't have time. My hobby is the business now, and that's all consuming. So.
Yeah, but yeah, and like the choice was to work at the small shop or like the Guitar Center, and not to brag on Guitar Centers, but no, I prefer to go to the small shop, and so I prefer that, and again ThermoGrid too, where we went on a bit of a journey, and part of it, JG was their small shop. We did get acquired because we thought the goal was to kind of help it grow, help us accelerate things maybe with resources we didn't have. And it just kind of turns out, with a company like this, it just feels like a better fit being independently owned. So we were owned by a larger company. We did, the previously mentioned Adam Corey did buy ThermoGrid back. And I think the first question when it was like, hey, because when we're part of a larger corporation and like a section of this gets bought out, it's like, where do you want to go?
Yeah.
And when I talked to Adam, the first thing I said was, I asked him why he bought it back, and he said he missed it. And I said, good enough for me. Let's go. Let's do this.
And the thing is, right, so they were bought out by a very large global software company, which really treated their employees well. I enjoyed working there. There was no issues there.
I made lots of friends there. I would never say anything bad about anybody there.
Absolutely. I won't say anything bad about the company. It was a good company. But you do quickly find out when there's shareholders involved that how money gets spent. So you cannot be as nimble and as liquid as you need to be as a startup software to make decisions quickly and implement those changes, right? Because this software market is the fastest paced market that I think I've ever seen and have ever been a part of. And it's like, if you can't keep up and develop at that pace and get the help that you need, you're not going to be successful. Because there's several things that we talked about, Travis. There's like, guys, we have to have this. And it's like, it's going to have to go and develop, and it's going to take a long time because we don't have the resources. And it's like, by the time you get that done, the next thing is up, right? And it's like, that was the issue, in my opinion.
Yeah, and again, I mean, if people ever decide to Google who we own it, they can find out. So I don't necessarily want to. I'm not going to say anything myself about who that can be on somebody else. But again, it's not a shot at anyone or any company or anything. I want to make that pretty clear. But it is one of those things when you talk about the big players in the industry, right? You talk about the Service Titans, the House Call Pros, et cetera. They're not part of like a software conglomerate. It's like them and it's them, and because that's their main focus. And in order for something like this to be really successful, it has to be a main focus. Well, and say, all right, we're going to operate the way this industry needs it to operate, not how softwares in general operate. Right. If I say that correctly.
I mean, let's think back. And if I have this number wrong, please correct me. But I believe it was beginning of 2024 that Service Titan announced that they're going to dump $10 million into R&A. Like research and development. It was some huge amount, and we're looking at our budget going, well, damn. and
I think that's really tough too. And you might be right. Like I think it was minimum money. It might have been like in the mid-20s even. The two sticks out in my mind though. Like that sticks out.
But it's As a small, and the thing is, also we were part of a big company and had a lot of really cool software. They specialize in software for small to medium-sized businesses, but they have software that was really much more adapted than ours, right? And so where, as a stockholder, would you spend your money? The software that's already up and going is doing great things, or would you, try to put Band-Aids on things that, I don't know. It's a sensitive discussion, and again, I don't fault anybody for what happened or what happened through the year that I was there, but I understand why we failed.
Yeah, and definitely no hard feelings, and it's some of that ownership is on me as because my job title, which I don't know if we've even said yet, is product manager. So I work with the development team and the roadmap and getting customer feedback, and actually, as you mentioned earlier, trying to understand what the market's asking for. Being ahead of that too is a big part of trying to be predictive and make sure we know where things are heading. And I think that's bullet point 3 on our our list of things to talk about today. But that makes it tough. And that's what that is. But when I say part of that's on me is definitely for me, kind of my whole life wanting to be a small business and then going into that more corporate world. How do you say it? Sometimes you're more brash than you should have been. And I know you've gotten your wrist slapped a few times, JG, and so have I, just because it's like and it's not a lack of respect thing, but it's one of those things where you don't expect certain people to chime in. Who are really high up on the ladder, but you're just, it's a part of you's like, who?
I need to tell the story.
Okay.
So
this is a great format for storytelling, by the way.
Yeah.
So I get this job, and I fought hard to get the job. I had, I think, 4 or 5 interviews, and it was truly a blessing to be considered for this job. And I actually really loved my boss. She was a good person, and some of the people on that team that I worked with was really good people. But I get the job, and I get to meet everybody in the speed dating, because now you're working from home. Well, me and you work together. It was on the road every day. Now I'm blessed. I'm sitting in my fat ass in my chair, and I'm on Zoom calls all day long, or Microsoft Team calls all day long. It's like, this is the life, right? I don't know how many times I wore just pajama pants. It was perfect.
It gets old. It
did. But so I get this email, hey, we need you to book your flights. There is a meeting with all ownership in Texas. You need to be there. We need to introduce you. There's some things we need to work through. I'm like, great. So I remember I went and bought a suitcase. I, made sure I had good clothes on. So my wife's like, do you need dress pants? Like, I don't know how these people dress. I was like, no. They hired me knowing who I am. So what they're going to get is blue jeans, boots, and a jacket. That's what they're going to get, because I'll wear a button up, but that's who I am. This is going to be. So we get into this meeting, and dude, it's all like Travis Todd was there, Sarah was there. Like it was all the top end people of this company, the people who run this company. And I'm in this meeting, I'm being introduced, and they start talking about these things. And every other word is an acronym. And your old boy is a redneck, man. he's a South African redneck he knows heating and air, and there's no acronyms in my vocabulary. And we were about 2/3 through that meeting, and they asked me for my opinion. And I said, I would really love to give you my opinion if I knew what the hell you were talking about. and the CEO started laughing, and he was like, you know what? Get it. You'll catch up. This acronym thing will work. And by the time I left there, I was more caught up on the acronym thing, but I always kind of stood out as the guy with the blue jeans and the jacket and the boots, right? It was who I am. But that's who they wanted, and they wanted some insight and advice. And I learned a lot about our industry from that position because I was forced to dig in and find out what our industry really needs and wants, you know? It was interesting. Sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack Travis. So,
well, yeah, and I think we did get sidetracked. You were asking about like, us in the history of ThermoGrid, and we're talking about like our old ownership. Like, oh man.
So
if any of my coworkers are listening to this, are they going to get mad at me?
So let's circle back to that.
Yeah.
So ThermoGrid. So this big company buys you guys, and then how it goes from there.
Again, I think we definitely learned a lot. We learned a lot about processes and kind of different ways of like essentially deploying the software. And I know I'm speaking a lot more personal about like, myself in this because, I can't tell you I learned a lot more about the sales process because I'm on the software side. So, but I think it was definitely a good experience, definitely a good opportunity. And I will make a side note that you said like everybody there I really enjoyed, and not trying to appease HR, so I think somebody's sneaking in and listening here. But even like you mentioned, the CEO is a good dude. I've met with him a few times. Anyway, but yeah, I'll move on from that. So, when we were there, we were owned by that company for 4 years?
Yeah,
something like that.
I think it was 4 years.
And then, and I mentioned before, Adam Corey bought it back because he missed it, and Adam came in. He initially was doing the business coaching with the software, and this time around, Adam. So he sold ThermoGrid, and then he had his own other company because he has his own construction company as well. And then he's basically come back as an owner user, like a customer. Like they used to say for Hair Club for Men, I'm not only a member, I'm a customer too. And I say that that's why I wear a hat because like I don't have hair.
This is the most here in the front.
but I'm really scruffy because, in like full disclosure, I'll share some secrets of the podcast world now because I'm such an expert. But there's a lot of sarcasm there. But JG asked me to do this today, and
because we know what does JG do well?
After lunch,
procrastination.
Yeah.
He's an expert at procrastination.
Yes. But I didn't have time to really clean up, is what I'm saying here.
Well, we like to make it very informal, and then you don't have any time to say no or think about things. So, like, hey, we're going to have you on tonight.
Yeah. Well, I'm not making fun of your podcast. I want to make that clear. But I did ask JG, which I think this is really funny, because this starts at 5 Eastern, and I go, JG, and it was like 4:50, and I was in the waiting room, and I texted him. I was like, "Do you guys meet early for sound checks or nothing?" He goes, "Nope, 5 at 5." Okay.
I wasn't sure. He called me earlier, and I was on the phone, and we had talked about this, Travis. He's like, I got, and I totally remember our conversation we had the other time, but he's like, I got somebody for us, because I said, I got somebody too if we need them. It was going to be one of our sales reps, and she's new to the industry, like 18 months, 20 months in HVAC, and really in marketing. And so I texted her back, said, "You don't need to worry about it." Oh, I was okay with it. Now I got to worry about it for a week. So you got nothing to worry about.
Just so that everybody knows, we do take this a little seriously. We decided we were going to get together for a meeting, and we're going to actually, put our guests on notice and put them on a calendar. And I think we talked about that when we started the podcast. So now we're going to really do it, and we're going to do it around.
We do have an Excel spreadsheet with people that have said yes. And just need to work on getting the dates lined up a little better.
Well, and Travis can speak to this. Well, like I'm this is just how I roll, partner. Like, and like I had speaking engagements last year, and marketing would be all over me. Man, you need PowerPoints. I'm like, we'll figure it out when we get there. Like, it's fine. Like, I know enough that I can get up there and say something and not sound like an idiot. But it's true. And so with all that said, Travis, so the software industry in general, I found to be very tricky. I found to be very cutthroat, and I found that it's saturated. I mean, what is your thought on that?
And hopefully it's okay for me to just get on a little bit of a soapbox. It may not be like 100% factual. This is a podcast where my opinion matters, right? So don't always need facts, right? But I do kind of see because we've gone to a lot of trade shows, like JG and myself. Like I've been to a lot of trade shows with you, and I was gonna give you a little jab, teasingly, of your intro video to this podcast. You in that sport coat. JG wore that sport coat, same one everywhere. Every trade show,
everywhere.
So I've seen that sport coat. But the as far as like the industry goes, it is a really saturated industry. But I do see, like, when we go to these trade shows, we will see softwares that are there for one trade show.
Wait.
I feel like.
So I need to interrupt, Travis. Did your beer assistant just bring you a beer?
You want to come in here and stick your head in? This is my beer assistant. She brought me another thing to rep here.
Hi there.
Hi.
Beer assistant. I don't have one.
I'm on my way.
We're repping a customer here and a good HVAC business, great HVAC business. Then we're repping SBE.
There you go.
And got my, nice. But she actually brought in, look at this, Carrier.
Carrier.
Well, I knew you had to have something cold, so I thought that.
Be careful, Will. If you put that Carrier thing on your beer can, it might start leaking.
Oh. Settle down, Beavis.
You guys are having a good time. I can tell. Yep. I hear it all.
Sorry, I had to go there. Sorry about that.
I almost wore my Daikin hat for this because I thought the blue would match pretty good, but it's actually really dirty. Apparently, it's one of the hats I run.
Sorry, Travis. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just really am very jealous of the beer assistant.
Yeah, I'll back up a few seconds, but yeah, it's because when I talk about the trade shows with the softwares and how saturated it is, I do plenty of times when I go to the trade shows, I'll see softwares that are there like in kind of in the circuit for like one show. I do think plenty of them kind of go to these shows with the hope that someone larger buys them out.
Yeah, I agree.
And you kind of see them, they say, because they'll make like a really niche corner of like some like of what a software might be lacking, and they might say, all right, one of these major guys might pick us up, and we'll make a couple million and we're good. So I do, that's more anecdotal. That's the part that I was saying is not super factual, but I feel like I've seen that.
I agree.
I think you're spot on with that.
I agree.
Oh, right. Well, then I've been validated. I don't need facts.
Well, let's look.
I think there's a lot of holes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, there was, and I'm not going to name names, but there was a software that did pricing, and they were quickly bought up by somebody that does what you guys do, right? Yeah. And so now it's an integrated thing. And I tell you, that was one of the things that we were looking at because we were looking to integrate with other people. That was one of my big initiatives. And something I thought was for our team to start integrating with other software. So we don't have to have the features. We can integrate with other people. And we were going to integrate with this company. And all of a sudden I put a pause to it because now I'm integrating with a company that is owned by a competitor. And it didn't sit right. It felt a little bit, Will, like the whole Train Mitsubishi thing. It was a little hard, right?
But I think that's the kind of in like the product development corner. I think when you're talking about something your software doesn't have, you've got three choices: build it, integrate it, buy it.
Yeah.
Those are your three choices.
That's right.
And so that's what'll happen. So yeah, you see a lot of these trade shows. So the saturation is there. You'll see these new softwares popping up all the time, and then they get acquired by someone or it is. And that's not to, say that these other companies that come up with something new that's now that they're necessarily going to be bad.
Yeah.
But I think it's worth looking into what you think their goals are as a company, as a product. Because our goal is to be a competitor. We don't want to get bought up. We don't want to be owned by someone else. We want to be there. Because we're 100%, like 95% of our employees are in Iowa, and the other guys in Montana, the other person, like the rest of us are in Iowa. So
Roger?
Yeah, Roger.
Did Roger come with you?
Roger came with.
Oh, Roger's awesome.
Yeah. So it's
the team
it's
is
one
awesome.
of those things. Yeah, and the team is great, and we know we're not a huge team like the ones who invest $26 million in development, but that but the thing is, like, if we have our customers say this is necessary, we need this, we can do it because we say okay, like that's what we say. Yeah. And it's nice to be that small and agile as a product to say I've identified a need, we're on it right now. So while we might not have 300 developers that I'll just say ServiceTitan has, I don't know, but like also excuse me, also their developers are like, here's the ones that work on the back end, here's the ones that do this. And so like sometimes, and we learned that at our old owner company, like that segregation of like knowledge is really tough sometimes because it's like things get lost in translation.
I bet.
Building stuff. And so I got to imagine they've got similar problems because like they may have 100 developers that only know how to like,
they're in this little box.
Yeah, they're in this little box, and that's okay. And that's okay. I'm not trying to be overly PC, but I really have no intention of like talking down to anybody or any position because I'm sure those are very talented people. So, but it's a box, right? But we're JG, you always wanted to do this sales pitch. We're homegrown, United States, all that stuff. You call us on support, you get us on support. We're not transferring you, we're not going through a call center. You get our team, and I think that has value. Because
it does. And I'll tell you why it has value is because the software we currently use, I can't get hold of anybody. Right. And so there's some issues there. And the software is having to create third-party companies to get support. Right. So that's a whole nother discussion. But, Travis.
I always felt. I don't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. But, I think you said something here that kind of triggered it for me and kind of explains the past, but also explains the future for you guys is you're able to say yes. When a customer say, hey, have you thought about this? No, we haven't. Let's look into it. And by the way, yes. And so that's something we couldn't do. And I think you are released now to do that. So I know that the one thing for you guys that was insanely strong was your inventory management piece. That you did very well. And I think Roger was the one that developed that, wasn't he? Yep.
He was a big part of that. Yeah.
Shout out to Roger. But so tell us a little bit about kind of what you guys are now. What is setting you apart? What are you doing?
Yeah. And I just wanted to make one more comment about the customer support. I've always thought that was such a low bar just to be able to talk to somebody.
Yeah. So, answer the phone.
This day and age, it is a low bar.
Answer the phone.
Yeah. So anyway. So and this was kind of all I prepared. Again, I only had a couple hours to prepare mentally for this. So when I knew that was
45 minutes
talking about the future, but like I think a really big thing, and especially that we're looking into in ThermoGrid, and you guys can probably guess. Like if you can guess what I would talk about, the future of this product, it's 2 letters.
Dashboards.
I mean, that's part of it. 2 letters. AI.
Oh, okay, fine. Sorry.
Yeah. Did you not hear that? Did you hear that? I said it's 2 letters.
Sorry, I thought I heard 2 words. The lag. There's delay. I forgot to record.
First of all, dashboards is 1 word, but it's also 10 letters. So just off.
Remember, I'm African. I think in one language and talk in another.
Sorry, I know that's. I've always been impressed by that because I think in English and then I speak in English. You have to translate everything.
Yeah,
right.
It's Google Translate right in the middle here somewhere.
I'm always impressed by that when English is a second language because it's like you have to everything you say. Anyway, I digress. But yeah, AI is a really big thing, and dashboards and things. But it all kind of leads to it because when we first were doing ThermoGrid, it came with the coaching, and I think the mentality of like the really successful softwares at the time, where you have to put in the work with your software for it to give back all the metrics you want, you know? And that was like 5-6 years ago, you know, and what that's saying is like, you want to track your KPIs? Here's your input, here's your input, here's your input. And we weren't on an island with that thinking. You know, we listened to other softwares, and we listened to other business coaches. And we even went to we went to a trade show that was all about KPIs and managing your software, and their big coaching thing. And I'm not saying who for this one either, but I did get this hat there. But they were, you know, the big thing was track your data, use your things, and tracking your data was always manual input. It was always like that, and people were okay with that. But we found that like people aren't okay with that. And when I say people, I mean the users aren't. Like the corporations, the companies, the coaches are saying, do this. They're like, I literally went to this, and they say job cost everything every day. But then you actually talk to a customer who's like 1 to 2 people as their shop, and they will tell me directly. They say, Travis, I don't have time for that. I'm a 1 or 2 person shop, and I don't want to do that at the end of the day. They just say I don't want to, because I worked all day. I was in an attic for 6 hours. I'm angry. I want one of these beers. I don't want to sit at my computer and job cost when I get home. But like that's what everybody was telling, and everybody was coaching. And so, you know, how do you get around that? Then like AI, you know, is huge the last couple of years, right? So what can AI do? It can do all that for you, you know, like, and I think people are like, and I like to use my kids as the barometer here, because my 11-year-old got his first phone, right? And because he's got tons of sports. My 11-year-old is in soccer, track, and lacrosse all right now.
Is he on the is he on the Tickety Talk? Can I follow him?
No, apparently he has to be older for that. You have to be 13. I did let him sign up for TikTok, but then they banned him for not being old enough.
How about the Book of Faces? Can I follow him there? I just want to hook up. Your son is the coolest kid, man, I think I've ever met.
He grew up. Yeah, I actually was going to make that comment earlier. You're talking about your daughter who's going to Charlotte, and I was saying, you know, last year she tackled my son.
She did
in the grass
in front of a restaurant.
In front of an Olive Garden. But
it was good.
But anyway, so like talking about the AI, so like now it's not that we were in this like middle ground of no solutions. Like, so obviously, like, you know, you have your house call pros of the world, and hopefully it's okay that I do these kind of name drops.
Yeah, of course.
Big enough.
Yeah,
like where they're overly simple, right? And I'm not going to say simple to a fault, because again, I have no intention of trash talking, but they're so simple. And, you know, because they're so simple, once you kind of grow as a company, sometimes it leaves you wanting more when it's that simple. So like the middle ground was to be really simple, or still have those extra inputs that you don't necessarily want to do as a software user of as a business owner. And, you know, and obviously selling software like this, like the bigger softwares with the more work, is a lot easier when you have office people. Right. So, but when you don't have office people, that's the spot. That's that market that was really being missed by like the service titans and all these people, like, because it's just like, though, let
me interrupt you for a second. So
yeah, please.
I'm not going to push back on that point, because I think you're right, but I'm going to tell you what I'm learning or experiencing is that when the software is so hard to use, you're having a hard time to hire people. And then when you hire people that has experience in that software, they don't last long, because you may not have set it up correctly, or you set it up a different way because of your company flow. And so we're having, Travis, if I'm telling you, just because I spent a year on that site and kind of know what I'm looking at and how hard it is for us to do business at this moment, it's a tough thing. And then I look at how much I pay for it. I'm like, this shouldn't be a thing, right? And so we're to the point where I'm bringing an expert in after summer to go through everything, and at that point, the team is going to make a decision if we're moving on or not, because it's too hard to use. It's taking too long to put a call on the board. And yes, the reporting is amazing, but then I pull reports and I give it to the leadership group, and they go, yeah, the report's correct, but, and I go, wait a minute. in reporting, there's no but. It's like it's either black or white. It's either this or it's not. Yeah, but this, and it's not tracking this or it's not. Wait a minute. Like if I'm looking at reporting and I have to run our company by a P&L or by a report of some kind, and it's not correct, then I'm making the wrong decisions. So it's actually a bigger issue than you realize, and the amount of office people actually doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
No, I think that's a good point, because I think you say something, you remind me of an experiment I did, and you might remember it. I went to other people who made software. So you remember when we had our big company, I went to other product.
Yep, I remember.
And I said, hey, use our software at the time. And they're like, yeah, it's simple. I knew what to do next. It was cake. But then I would go to like somebody else who has no software experience, and it wasn't simple.
That's right.
So it's like you also have to be aware of your echo chamber.
Yes.
Yep. But yes, I think the reporting thing is tough, because when the software is hard and there's a lot of inputs and a lot of stuff you have to do, people are people, right?
Yeah, they are.
People get lazy and they take the path of least resistance. And so you can't trust your reports anymore because they clicked this spot because it's one less step. Mm-hmm. And so now the reports might be accurate based off the input, but sometimes people get tired of doing it. And I think that's pretty important too.
Well, we hired a dispatcher this week, and she has 12 years of experience and has experience in the software that we're using. And in the interview, I thought it was easy. I thought it was interesting because our dispatch manager said, "Yeah, we would love to bring you on board, and if you know any shortcuts to the software, we would like to know about that." And I didn't say anything, but the first thing it triggered for me, my reporting is going to be off. Because shortcuts means the right things are not getting clicked. So if the software is so hard that my dispatch manager have to say that we have to have shortcuts to be able to get people on a dispatch board, we have issues. We have real issues. Uh-huh. And so, and I'm kind of standing and dying on this hill, but it's like, it needs to be so simple and so easy, but still give me what I want to see at the back end. So I want my cake and I want to eat it too, especially if I'm paying you the amount of money I'm paying you.
And that goes back to why I'm talking about the AI thing, because the AI can basically digest the information sometimes in a messy way and tell you this is what it means. How many times have you asked because I actually use the AI a lot. I'll admit I pay for ChatGPT for personal use just as much as anything else. I know we were talking about this before we were recording, but I ask ChatGPT of ideas for dinner for healthy reasons, and I'll ask it for workouts to do. Which, guys, I do all of the workouts you suggest. I never skip one. I just want you to know that I do 100% of it. And never once. I just don't let this. Well, there's a reason the camera's shoulder up, right?
I actually have a ChatGPT story for you, and I have to thank you and the team for kind of showing me what chat can do, right? So I use chat in every day. Everything I do, everything I write, if I write an email, it checks it. I don't want to sound stupid. So what chat has done, because I pay for it too, it has learned everything about our company. So to the point yesterday afternoon, I didn't have time. I went in chat and said, write me a job offer for this person. This is the amount of money I want to pay and include our benefits. It already has our benefits package uploaded. I had a job offer like that. It was correct. I emailed it. It was instant. But let me tell you what I did. And I'm going to pat myself on the back for this, because you guys may have known how to do this, but I just figured out how to do this. So we're hiring for an HR position, and it's an intense hiring process. So what I did was I am bringing the team up to kind of the speed of how I think we should be hiring. So we go through Indeed or wherever we go, we gather 20 to 30 resumes. We take those resumes, then we send them a Calendly link, which I also learned from you guys, and they schedule 25-minute interviews with us. So we'll do an average of 12 to 13 a day if we want to hammer them in. We meet with those people very quickly. Then we suss out who we would like to talk to more. Those people we send a DISC profile assessment to. Once we get those back, we go through those, and then we kind of bring it into 3 or 4 candidates, and then we bring those in for a second interview in the building with the leadership team. So I sat at my computer yesterday morning going, I have to interview these 3 very intelligent, very good candidates for this HR position. I don't know what questions to ask because, again, Ask me about superheat and subcool. I can help you, but this is where I'm at. So a thought struck me, and I was like, hey, chat, because by the way, I talk to chat like she's my personal assistant, and it's a she.
I say thank you to the chat.
Yeah, I do. I thank it. I ask, I thank. Yeah, absolutely. So I type and I said, hey, chat. I call it chat. I said, hey, chat, if I upload a resume and a disc profile assessment, can you help me formulate questions? And it said, sure. Dude, and it went through and took the weaknesses of the disc, compared it to the resume, and gave me 15 questions, 3 sections of 5. First section of questions was of experience, things that they pointed out in the resume. Second was skill-based things, and third things were disc-based things. So this person might not be strong at this point, so ask this question. So I'm like, well, damn, this is insane. So then I loaded up the other 2 candidates, and at the end it said, I recognize that you have loaded up 3 candidates. Will this be all you're interviewing, and do you want me to compare them to each other? And so I said yes, and it printed out a sheet that said strength. It took 5 things that we were looking for in this job. It took strength and weaknesses and graded the people. I knew who we were hiring before I walked into the interviews. It was insane. Now, there's a human element to it, and you can't go this far because it's actually a little scary, but I knew exactly what each person was going to struggle with. And so all I did was poke the things that I think that could be weaknesses and see how they responded to them. It was the whole experience was insane. And it's like, this is the level of where you can go to with the stuff if you really need to.
Scary.
It was scary.
Well, and if I can I use your story to segue into why I think that matters for the software? Because the software doing all of that, that's one of those things that and I'm telling you, we're looking to put this into ThermoGrid, and that's one of those things that we really want to use to kind of set us apart, is it can now tell you what you need to do to be successful as a business.
Yes.
Right. And that's kind of what it is. So it's like, you have this many jobs on your calendar, and you have this many service calls, you have this many sales, it can digest that and say to you, it can be like your business coach, because we put it in practice ourselves. We're trying to train the ChatGPT for ourselves to use it in our software to say, if my business is struggling, what do I need to focus on? And in the chat will say, here's where you're lacking. You actually need more sales. Try to focus less on service calls and more on installs for X, and you can say, okay, this is what I should zero in on. I mean, you can't, you can't magically make those phone calls appear,
right?
But it also can kind of give you a focus. And I'm using my example as kind of a really generic example.
Sure.
So I don't want it to feel super black and white when I say, do sales instead of service, but it can do it maybe tell you that your rates are too low.
Mm-hmm.
It can do things like that. You're not charging enough to do this type of service based off of your area. There's plenty of things that you can integrate it with the system. And we're already seeing companies, the really easy thing we're seeing them do right now is, we know, in the field, on a tablet or whatever, it's really hard to type good notes for a customer. Mm-hmm. We see the notes cleaned up everywhere. It just comes with Google, with Gmail now. And we see it in softwares now where they type in notes to the, and it's great. It does a wonderful job of cleaning up your notes. I use that. I went to school for English to be a book editor is what I went to school for initially, right? And this is so much easier for me because it just does a really good job, and it's much quicker, and it's great, and my point is, I feel like I have a pretty good skill set here to do it myself, but all I have to do is click a button and it does a great job.
Yeah.
And so that's the easiest thing, but the rest of it is putting together your service catalog. I've done it and making sure your prices are right, as I kind of already mentioned, and then again help you and kind of and the idea is when I didn't finish my thought earlier talking about using kids as the barometer. My 11-year-old, I said to him, I saw him talk to his phone and whatever. And I said, what did I say to him? I said, don't you ever type on that thing? It's got a keyboard. He says, why would I need to do that? I can just talk to it. So that was epiphany number 1, mm-hmm. Right? And epiphany number 2, same kid, different day. He was in his room and he was just asking his Alexa questions. And I was like, do you ask a lot of questions to Alexa? And his response was so flat. And he was like, Dad, I ask Alexa everything. So, and I was like, it's like my epiphany was like, okay, for the software, we should be able to say, schedule a job Wednesday, 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Like with voice.
Yeah.
And then the second epiphany was our software, it doesn't have to be with a voice, but our software should be able to read back to us what we want to know.
Right.
And I think, and again, these are things that we're actively kind of working on, of saying, like, all we should need to do is talk to our phones at this point and say, and whoever the software is, we know the software is, everyone does a little bit differently because they have to track their KPIs and track things. But guess what? If we tell ThermoGrid it's a service job, ThermoGrid is going to just pre-fill in all those things for us, like all those buttons you used to push. So now we don't have to push anything. We just say schedule this job, and we're good.
Well, sorry, Travis. Well, how does AI play into the marketing piece?
Well, you're probably asking the wrong person here. I'm still very stubborn.
All right.
So, but a lot of our team is using it. Jim Gregory, who's been on our podcast for, he's our main manager, Travis, digital manager. He uses it a lot. But yeah, it's playing in, the AI results that people are getting as they're searching things, consumers are. I write a lot of articles, and I've yet to use it. I can't. I'm sorry. That's not
right.
Like anybody, I may Google something to get ideas, but it's got to be my voice. But it's being used more and more. And honestly, I probably don't know as much as it's probably being used way more than I realize. Honestly,
I try, since I use it a lot myself, so I play this game that I try to play with other members of my family, but nobody's interested in it. And that game is, when we watch TV, that commercial is made by AI. I can tell you, and here's why. Really? And I think the last time I said that, my wife said, I don't care. So.
And I know your wife, and I think she's awesome. So if she didn't care, she really didn't care.
Yeah, she didn't even humor me.
I've got a question or a response to that too. So some of the production companies, they're using AI where it used to be a real voice, a voiceover. Mm-hmm. So I didn't realize they were even doing it. I didn't realize it was an actual, AI voiceover. But we had a customer of ours that we had a local radio personality doing their radio spots. He's like, well, what software are they using for the AI VO? And I'm like, no, that's a real person.
No,
funny.
And Will, to your point,
I'm the one that you're asking the wrong person.
Well,
unfortunately, I'm sorry.
And to your point, right? So Brian Bohr, the owner of the company I work for, said the other day. He said somebody sent him an email, and it was very obvious that it was chat. And he said, "Listen, I feel like I'm losing my personal touch. Just send me the damn email, right?" So I really do, and I've gone down this road of really teaching chat how I write. So it does misspell some things sometimes. It does things because I do want it to be my personal thing. But what I'm using it for example, yesterday afternoon, I didn't have 10 minutes to sit down and write that job offer. But if I know it'll do it for me and I can proofread it, that's okay. Now, the next thing I'm getting ready to play with a little bit, because I get a ton of emails every day and a lot of it is spam. I found out you can hook chat up into your inbox and it goes through your emails, it sorts it for you, but then the important emails, it'll write a response for you, but won't send it. It'll just have it ready so you can review it. And if that's what you want to say, go ahead and hit send, right? And so and it is scary. I agree, it's so scary. But as somebody that has to run a fairly large company and make a lot of decisions quickly and have your finger on pulse and have a lot of meetings and have all these things, if it can save me 2 hours a day, it is insanely important to me to look at it, right? And so I'm with you, Will, a little bit. I'm kind of old school. I like to write stuff down in pen and paper, but it's getting to a point where I know.
I'm sorry.
I know. But
it's all our stuff.
Okay. Do you want to know something? Another thing I found out, you can actually scan your handwritten notes into chat and it reads it.
Oh, first of all, we've talked about doing that in our software too, because it's amazing. Because that's what the technicians want to do. They want to sit down and write it, scan it, put it in. It's good at that. And you know what? And I'm not even trying to be a huge defender of AI, because I know people talk about it being scary, but I try to, like, it's a tool.
Yeah,
right.
It is
like it's a tool, and if we treat it as a tool for their specific purposes, it does a good job.
It's like a set of gauges, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, it just worries me.
It does.
Yeah. You remember the Terminator movies? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Is it Skynet? Yeah.
Well, Skynet is it coming? Is it real now? Full circle?
Well, and you know, I'm worried I'm going to start sounding like an AI apologist, because it's not my plan here, because I agree. Like, you know, everything should have things should have a limit, right? There should be checks and balances with stuff like that. But you know, because I think with AI, people are always talking about, because, like, you know, if you use the free version, it's anything you put into it is not yours, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But that's not new. Like, that's Dropbox used to do that.
Yeah.
If you put a file in Dropbox will say it's ours too now, so be careful. But the one thing is, so that none of that's new. But at the same time, it does claim that if you pay for it, it remains yours.
Yeah, and it
claims that, whether you believe it or I don't. I'm skeptical too. I'll say that. Yeah. But it says that. So either way, so there is that claim.
But, you know, using
again, nothing factual here. This is opinions.
Right. Using it, you know, again, as a tool. So this month of March, we're spilling over a little bit, but we did all our employee evaluations, and I wanted to bring meaning to our employee evaluations because it's important to me. Like, if I sit down with you and tell you how you did this year, and we're talking raises and stuff, I want to really know what I'm talking about. But I keep going back to this, guys, but I am a huge believer in these discs, man. And they just tell you so much and you learn so much. So we had my service managers review today, and we wrote up the review. It was a combination of me and one of the owners. We wrote it up together. He sent it to me. I edited some stuff. But then I took that review and I loaded it up in chat, and I loaded the service manager's disc up in chat. And I said, hey, write me recommendations for this year's growth. Like, what can we do? And it literally went and looked at the review we gave, the weak points on the disc, and actually put 5 things together. Hey, if this guy works on these 5 things, he's just going to be an amazing employee. And so sure enough, I took it into the review. And we were going through it, and I said, Al, I think that these things we should work on. We walked out of the review, and I was like, this is the best review I've ever had, because it really focused in on what I need to grow. And so my point is that it is a tool. You need to be careful how you use it, and you need to proofread, by the way, everything it does. But it does help you analyze things that you don't have time to sit there and read. I don't have time to read a 72-page disc, but this does. And it'll tell me very quickly, give me a synopsis of what I'm looking at. And that's all I need. With notes.
I've used, And again, I agree with you that I think if we use AI too much, it does lose a personal touch. Yeah. I absolutely, as I mentioned before, when I say that commercial is made by AI, I don't mean it's a good commercial. I go, I don't like them as much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you see it like in like the voiceover industry right now, where they bought the rights to their voices.
Yes.
And they're using their voices instead of them to like voice like cartoons or video games and something like, stuff like that. And so it really shouldn't be doing that. I don't it's just, if it's cheaper, that's probably why, but there feels like something incredibly moralistically wrong about that. Is moralistically a word? I don't know.
It is on the Beer Can Cold podcast.
It is. But it feels wrong to kind of like, I own the rights to your voice. No, like that doesn't make sense. It's my voice.
Moralistically. That's kind of hard to say too.
I didn't feel like I got it out smoothly the first try.
Well, Travis, listen, so I know for a fact we're going to have you back on in the future because I just think that there's so much more to unpack here. We are kind of coming up against an hour here, and this is recorded hour, not previous and recorded hour. So, but I just want to say, man, it was so great to catch up with you and to talk about this stuff. And I think there definitely is some more to unpack here, and I think we should have you back pretty soon to talk about the software piece for contractors, because I do think there's still some guys on pen and paper, believe it or not. And I know that it's important to get everybody to, some type of CRM. And then I go with the acronym again, but some type of software. How about that? So tell us just quickly a little bit about how software can help, how ThermoGrid can help small to medium-sized business.
I think, this is a sales pitch I would use, old as the end of the day. And thanks for bringing us back to the plug. As this is rattling on, I start getting worried. I start thinking about my coworkers, and if they were watching this, be like, Travis didn't talk about us at all.
Talk more about his blacksmithing than he did anything.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, with software, it really helps with, like, first of all, just looking professional, having professional looking invoices. Is really nice. Like, it's a huge plus, especially because, like, if you're just pen and paper, and again, I expect you to correct me if I'm wrong here, JG, but like, if you service commercial, there's so many like rules on your invoices. Like, you have to have your business license number on the invoice. You have to have all these things here. That's right. And if you're doing a bid, I feel like, and again, anecdotally, it feels like the handwritten bids don't get accepted as much as the professional bids for the commercial jobs competition. So that's one. The automation is nice, and I don't just mean AI. I just mean automation in general that existed before AI. And I do like to tell this story, like, because everybody remembers during COVID things were shut down. The HVAC industry was super busy.
We blew up.
We were essential businesses. We were essential. People were in their homes selling UV filters, UV light filters, and was a huge part of the business. But one of the biggest things that I love to do in our software in small businesses, it really helps them grow, is like when you sell like service or membership plans. Yeah. And companies that do those service plans where you go and visit once a quarter or twice a year, if you're not on software, that's a file in your filing cabinet that is like, nobody wants to do it. And then you like sift through it and you go, I owe them a visit. It's going in this stack. Let's call them. Yeah. That is super painful. But like, and again, I'll just plug ThermoGrid for a second. In our software, if you have 33 visits due this month for your company, you can remind them all at once with one report and one click of a button that says send to all. Yep. It's very nice to get all 33 of those contacts out of the way with 1 minute of your time versus, a full day, which is what it would be on pen and paper. Right. And that's just an example of like how many corners that software just kind of makes your life easier for you, and I get that software is hard. There's a learning curve. You can have the simplest software in the world. There's still a learning curve to it, right? You still have to say, what do I do next? What do I do next? And I've played with all the other softwares and the other competitors, and I've seen them, and and it's just like, sometimes they get different words, because like sometimes because that's why I say service plans or memberships or because, we'll see invoices or work orders or everybody, like, and it depends on where you are, right? We'll see different terminology for you guys in South Carolina than we will see in Iowa, and that's just what it is. So I think some of our terminology for our software is very Midwestern sometimes, but I have an argument for that. I did go to Colorado one time, and this lady from California told me that I have a weird accent, and I told her, I said, listen, lady, I talk like how they talk on the news. So, because that's what the newscasters learn. They learn the Midwestern dialect. So, well, all right, I talk like how they talk on the news. Okay,
that is awesome.
It sounds very, very close to Canadian to me. It's kind of the inflection on the end.
Yeah.
Well, Travis, you, Corey, Logan, Adam, you guys all have open invite. Let us know. We would love to bring you guys back on and talk about this some more. The guys are, I miss you guys. You are a really fun group to work with. You taught me a lot, and if I didn't do that job for a year and a half, I couldn't be successful in what I do today. So, just a plug to you guys, and I know you guys, your heart's in the right place, and the software is good. And now that you have the freedom to kind of make and create and break and do and be flexible, I really think the future is bright for you guys. So very, very cool. Thank you so much for spending the day with us.
if I can just make the one plug here too is if anybody can I do like their phone number?
Sure.
Okay, so if anybody does want to learn more about our software,
1-800 Big Girl.
We do give it. You remember it? Yeah, but we do. If you call us and say you were referred by the Beer Can Cold podcast, there is a discount in place.
Oh my goodness!
So I know. Yes.
Well done.
You do get a special rate for a special. What do they call it? Affiliate rate, referral rate, something like that.
I want to thank you for making me feel super important right now. Thank you.
We spent hours coming up with the rate. No, we just asked ChatGPT, right? The number is actually, JG, do you remember our phone number?
No, I don't. But if you send it to me, I'll make sure I tag it in all the videos.
All right, I'll say it out loud once though.
Yes.
800-592-3611.
800-592-3611.
But
wait, thanks for the plug.
Friendly number there.
I was really, doing something like this. You don't want to sound like a commercial, right?
No,
you want to have fun, and JG as a human being. I genuinely love you, Will. I know it was always a joy talking to you before. I know it was only a couple times before, but it was really nice.
Well, if I come to Iowa, I'm going to let you know. If it's an hour, I'll buy you dinner.
That's very close. I would go visit you in a heartbeat, and and I can bring the kids.
Ghost tour,
maybe. No, I think this is a thing. Well, and I think Dubuque is beautiful enough to where we go stay in Bonnie and Clyde's hotel. It's honestly a great place. Actually, I loved our office we used to have in Dubuque, and I know that got turned into something else, but it was the most beautiful old factory something or other with the old original flooring and everything, and it was just a great place to have an office. And so I got to see it once, and I was very privileged to do so. I will say, though, the plane that I flew on from Chicago to get to Dubuque was so small that the guy next to me asked the air hostess if he could not sit next to the fat guy. So it was small
that is one thing about Dubuque is we have the world's. That's not like a thing of claim. We have a very small airport, and the airport is nothing more than a puddle jumper to like O'Hare.
That was pretty much what it was. But I drove because I had to fly into Des Moines, I think. And then I drove in, and it was the most beautiful drive through the cornfields and the farms. And it's just a beautiful part of the country. People don't realize they should go visit. So I promised.
We shouldn't oversell it. Shouldn't oversell it too much, but that is a big thing. Like, Dubuque is one of those towns that really is projecting like a growth thing. Because like a lot of those downtown buildings are being turned into like apartments, like the studio and whatever, and apartments like that. So and I did talk to the guy who owned our old office, because they did sell our old office, and it was I forgot what he said exactly, but he said the city of Dubuque is like incentivizing like these owners of buildings and things to turn them into apartments because they're expecting, the whole town is expecting to need like around 10 to 15,000 more apartments, which is really big because Dubuque is like a 60,000 person city.
That's huge.
Yeah. And so that's a lot of growth they're expecting. That's like almost a 20% growth. So it's like, I don't know where it's coming from, but because like, I hope it doesn't change. Like, this is going to blow everybody's mind. It's less than 15 minutes to everywhere.
Yeah, it is.
It is. You want to go across town? It's like 15 minutes is a long drive. So it's just like
the world's largest ball of yarn. Is that there?
It's pretty much. Yeah, and listen, the culinary scene there is huge. Like, we ate at several restaurants, and the food was, it was, I'm telling you, man, it's this gem. And I want to encourage everybody, because we have 2 million people listen to this podcast. Everybody go visit Dubuque.
Well, and we do have, because we, like, a lot of our restaurants will serve, like, for steaks, Iowa grass-fed beef.
I'd say it's farm to table, right?
It's delicious. And it's not supremely overpriced because it's still local, So, like, and so, forget your Omaha steaks or whatever. Like, we're great. We're local grass-fed beef, and it's awesome.
Yeah, it's good. Well, Travis, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And
this was really fun. I don't do this a lot. I used to have to do a lot of this with our previous company, and that was a lot more, a little stuffier, and so this was like,
what do you say?
Yeah, we used to get these sheets
out of the gutter?
No, I literally used to get emails of crap I couldn't say. Like, they would send you an email going, listen, we know you have this interview, and here's the list of things you can't talk about. I'm like, come on, man. Really?
Everything is open on this podcast.
Yes.
Yeah. I would love to do this every time, but I know the other guys would love a turn, because this is genuinely fun.
No,
so
I'm
really happy you asked me to do this.
Yeah, and I think an on-location podcast in Dubuque is in the future, so we definitely do this.
I think we should do the haunted place in Davenport. I would do that.
Look, hey, just Google it. Haunted Hotel, Davenport, Iowa, and it'll come up the Black Hawk, and it's a beautiful place. Like I said, the restaurant, we ate there both nights. Food was outstanding, and it was expensive too.
Yeah, and so we do. I know you want to wrap this up, but like I stay in Davenport at least once a year. I know it's only an hour away, so I don't need to stay. But this is another plug. There's a motorcycle swap meet that goes there.
Okay.
And it's Chief Blackhawk Motorcycle, and it's down at the fairgrounds of Davenport. And my family goes, my kids go, and they can't complain because it's always my birthday weekend. So it's like, hey, nobody gets to complain. This is my birthday trip. This is my gift. But we've stayed at the Blackhawk before. I did forget when we stayed that it was haunted. But we didn't stay there last year because the pool was being renovated. I think it was last year. But I do stay down there at least once a year for this motorcycle swap meet. And it's a big motorcycle swap meet because I think last year I saw the guy from American Pickers there, and I didn't bother him though, but I did like watch him for a little bit. He was really nice. He was really nice to everybody talking to him. And he was just he was doing what he does. He was wandering, like picking these stalls, and sometimes people stopped him and talked to him, whatever. And again, he seemed incredibly nice.
Yeah.
So, not that I know this guy and I'm trying to like convince people he's nice, but that was all. It's like, so it's big enough. The American Pickers guy goes there, but he's also from Iowa too.
That's right.
Yeah. But the Chief Blackhawk, we didn't stay there last year, but it's a and if I remember correctly, and you might, doesn't the Chief Blackhawk inside of it have a cool little barber shop?
I think it does.
And they do the straight razor, so we can go there and get our beards razored.
I've been threatening to shave my beard off and just go mustache again.
I was told that if I shave my beard and shave my hair, I look like Shrek, and I'm not allowed to do that.
When I shave, people tell me I look younger, and I you know what? I'll take that. I'll take that right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
because it's
old.
all,
So maybe I should do it.
Well, Travis, thanks, buddy.
I'll treat us to a barber. I'll treat us to a shave.
That's awesome.
There you go.
And then we probably shoot a line on some trip, like to one of these, trade shows. I think that'll be fun too. So, absolutely. Well, Travis, thanks again, buddy. Will, we're back on duty now, son. So no more traveling. We got podcasts to do.
I just feel better about things. I felt very disheveled for the last week or so.
Yeah, I did too.
Better.
I did too. And then there's the whole screaming at girls because I'm still a girls coach for the next 2 weeks. So there's that type of stuff. So, but awesome, guys. Thank you so much. This was a great hour. And Travis, we will have you back soon. All right. Have a good night.
Cheers, Travis. Yes, sir.